Woke M&Ms have returned.
Lego is going woke. America's going broke, woke, and becoming a joke.
Carrie Fisher, as Star Wars Princess Leia, a strong-willed, independent female leader who is not afraid to fight back. That was back in 1977. Now the franchise's newest director claims that the series is in desperate need of a woman's touch. Take a listen to feminist director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy.
You know, I'm very thrilled about the project because I think what we are about to create is something very special. And we're in 2024 now. And I think it's about time that we had a woman come forward to shape the story in a galaxy far, far away.
And it appears wokeness is nothing new for this director.
Okay, so we know what Fox is going to be mad about for a bit. Star Wars, as I think is clear at this point, has had many movies. They've never had a female director before. How could a woman director who's been tapped to do a sequel to Rise of Skywalker possibly think that that would be a good thing? Everybody up in arms. They've ruined Star Wars with wokeness. So they get more into the comments, and then they reveal, I think, a bit of a lack of understanding about classic sci-fi, starting with this.
I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable. It is important to be able to look into the eyes of a man and say, I am here, and recognize that.
Anything that she makes with this mentality is going to flop. I'm a mother of 3 sons. I'll tell you, it is my sons and my husband who are always wanting to watch Star Wars. If her goal is to make men feel uncomfortable, guess what? They're not going to watch it. And I'm certainly not going to be the one to pull it up. So just like Captain Marvel, when they try to put these women first agendas into these action movies, they flop. And this is going to do the same.
So the director that has been tapped to do this Star Wars movie has made many movies in the past, documentaries and things like that. She cares about social justice. She cares about gender and all of that. She clearly is highly experienced, and they're not going to put a massive multi-$100 million project in her hands to just make something designed to turn off that woman's sons or whatever. But that's the sort of straw man that you do for Fox News. You imply that if she likes the idea of challenging the way we feel or whatever, you couldn't possibly make anything good. And already now, in advance of a movie coming out that apparently her husband and her boys, like the past ones, they are not just predicting that it will flop based purely on who the director is. They want it to flop. They are getting ready to crow about it not doing well. I will remind you, it's a Star Wars movie. They generally do okay. I think Disney is going to be fine. But Brett, what do you think?
There's a lot. I personally think that what she said is like, I like to make men feel uncomfortable. She's being a dick. I think that's, you can say I like making toxic men feel uncomfortable. I like challenging gender norms that are unfair to women. That's one thing. I don't like when people do that. You'd be like, I like making men feel uncomfortable. It's like, well, you're a jerk. You're a jerk if you do that. But that's not all she's saying. There's other ways she puts it in context. After that, Fox doesn't want you to listen to that full context. That's something. There's a term I've coined called the shilitary industrial complex. And this is Fox. It's mostly the Daily Wire does it, and I'll be doing some videos about it. The shilitary industrial complex is when you just kind of seem like you're doing your normal shill work where you're like crapping on things that Hollywood does. But really you're serving some other nefarious purpose that benefits you in the long run. The Daily Wire does this. They have spent $100 million or something on a kids' entertainment. They need that to be successful. They don't want that to flop. And they're not just gonna go out and make good content that you're gonna wanna see. They also have to make you hate the other content out there. No other studio does this. Paramount isn't out there going like, Disney's gross. And Universal isn't like, oh, Netflix molests puppies. They're not doing that. They're not, but these guys always seem to do it. They are wrong when they say that women first movies aren't successful. And yes, I have to go all the way back to Barbie to prove that. They would have you believe, if you watch a Fox News segment, that there is no women-facing movie that is woke that will ever be or has ever been successful. Yet this year, Barbie, which does all of that and is directed by a feminist female director, made $1.5 billion at the box office and beat the most explodey movie, Mission Impossible, which they would say is the most like, yo, just let bros jump off cliffs, man, bro. It beat it by like, it tripled how much money that made, if not just double it.
I did not know that. I knew that it did well. I did not know that it made 1.5 billion. And they mentioned Captain Marvel there. Captain Marvel made over $1 billion. It's one of the best performing. Yeah, Wonder Woman did really well.
822
let's not talk about the second one. But yeah, Captain Marvel made so much money. And also, as people are pointing out, I was going to do this anyway, but Ukami and others have pointed out, Bryce Dallas Howard has directed some of the best performing episodes of The Mandalorian. And like the idea that you should never think about possibly having female perspectives in the entire world of Star Wars because Princess Leia was in the original movies. Yes, she was, and she was great. It was a great role, and she was just one of so many great female characters in those original 3 movies. Like Aunt Beru had a couple lines, and I think Mon Mothma was in a scene. And maybe some of the droids identified as female. I don't know. There's no other, like, it's just such a weird thing. And I just want to briefly mention, I don't think it was in the video, but Emily Compagno said, this is why I'm a Trekkie instead, because Star Wars has become woke. So that's why I'm a Trekkie. And you have now entered my territory.
Uh-oh,
what are you talking about?
He's gonna go off.
I'm gonna try not to because we don't have time. If there is literally any series that is woke historically, it's Star Trek. And I'm not saying that Star Trek has always had a great record on everything. Gene Roddenberry, there's a lot of concerns about stuff that he's said and done. There's weird portrayals of a lot of stuff. But like, I thought briefly about some of the episodes. I mean, not only do you have the first interracial kiss literally on TV, which Fox News would have covered for 6 months straight. But if we could bring up Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Uhura, and yeah, just what a scene. There are episodes of Voyager about the morality of using weapons of mass destruction, exploitation and propaganda targeting the working class. There's an entire episode about how the rich have access to better medical care than the poor do. That's just Voyager. Next Generation had tons of political episodes, specifically about identity, including gender identity. They had Riker falling in love with a non-binary alien species. There's one episode that was basically just like sort of, I guess, a redo of the McCarthy hearings. There are whole episodes about the discussions of the rights of artificial beings. How can you have watched any Star Trek and not understand how explicitly political it's been since the very beginning? Maybe you watched the Chris Pine ones. They maybe were less political, but other than that, you cannot consider yourself a Trekkie and not understand that they have taken strong stands on political topics literally for half a century at this point.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say on this is like you've misdiagnosed the problem with like the Marvel franchise. And listen, this woman who directed Miss Marvel, which is she directed, the Miss Marvel thing. It was bad.
I really liked
that. That's the wrong kind of like. All right, It's too extra. They're empujo is what they'd call it in Spanish. Like they're pushing a little too much, right?
Okay.
With a lot of it, it doesn't read as real. And that gets to my point. The reason that any of these movies don't perform is not because they're feminist or too many boys in it, too many girls. It's because they're bad. The bad ones do badly because they're bad. Tons of very masculine action movies have tanked. Taylor Kitsch lost like hundreds of millions of dollars for Disney with John Carter and Battleship in 1 year because the movies were bad. Right now, the reason that the Marvel franchise isn't as buff as it used to be is because they don't know what they're doing with it. Yeah. Not because there's girls in it who are strong.
Some of the recent movies I have liked more than most people, but anyway, I just want to briefly end with Corporations Ate My Baby with a YouTube comment that I can't believe I missed this. The like Vulcan core philosophy is infinite diversity and infinite combinations. It's literally about how you grow as a species through diversity.
And they're trying to get you to judge a movie before you see it.
They want you to because they don't want you to see it. They want it to fail so that they can have been right. And it's like how they will claim a movie that they previously said was gonna fail because it was woke. If it does well, it's suddenly not woke anymore. That's what happened with Super Mario Brothers. It's like, I critique movies that I don't like. I talk about the movies that I do. They don't approach it that way. Every movie, every piece of art is a playing piece on the culture war game board, and that's the only value. They lead such just intellectually and artistically barren lives.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.